Okay, here's the whole video on how to do persimmon leathers. You take one measuring cup and you scoop it full, you slap it down on this sheet, and then you spread it really thin with a spatula, or maybe you could make a squeegee that would work more efficiently. And it's about 1 1/8 cup per square foot of leather. So this is about, my fingers are 9 inches, so it's like 11 inches by 11 inches. So I put it down about a cup. I take it over to my dehydrator and run it for 13 hours at 140 degrees. If you're doing 135, that works too. Yeah, the only thing that you really got to focus on in this process is as the bucket of pulp is melting, you gotta be making leather with it, because it ferments really quickly. So I think that's everything. Yeah, so once it's dried for 13 hours, you can just store it in a sealed bag. If you want to make raisins, persimmon raisins, I'll make a video on that in a little bit. Okay, so here's the raisin making. This is refrigerated, this is frozen. Hit this, doesn't really do much. Hit this, shatters into pieces. You can just bend it a little bit and it's broken. This you can flex and it doesn't do anything. So you do this for a little bit and then I'll stop the video and sift it in a minute. Okay, and here's the second part of this. So I think it's helpful to sift. Makes it a little bit more uniform, better quality of a product. This is what's less than a 1/4 inch. And I think this is probably a little too fine to have like a really nice uniform product. It's like a persimmon raisin. And this is what's between a 1/4 inch and a 1/2 inch. And I think this is just about perfect. I think it'll mix with the nuts well and not just all sift to the bottom. And then everything over a 1/2 inch I think should be refrozen and shattered again. It's still brittle. It's been like 2 minutes out of the freezer, but it's not shattering as well, especially the thicker pieces aren't shattering as well anymore. So I'm gonna refreeze everything over a 1/2 inch, keep the 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch, and then maybe even grind the less than a 1/4 inch even finer to make powdered sugar, and I'll show you that shortly. Okay, last thing, I've been sifting to an 8 mesh and doing the 4 mesh sifting again, and I'm getting this really fine product. I feel like this will be a good sugar alternative, and I'll experiment more with that and report back on that. Okay, here's the whole overview again. So you dehydrate 135 while your bucket's thawing. You make really thin layers. It should only be about 1 cup per 1.25 cups of persimmon pulp per square foot. So my leathers were about one cup of pulp. And then from there you can just eat it as is. It's delicious all by itself. It's like a Twizzler but less sweet and organic. Or you can take pecans, you can line them all up on a little layer of leather. You can roll it up, rolling the leather about 2 layers thick, and then eat those pecans inside of there. It's delicious. Or you can make raisins and mix it with hazelnuts. Delicious. And my partner, she used the flour, or the persimmon sugar, the really fine, the 8 mesh and less fines from the shattering process to make persimmon raisins. And she made like a buttery cookie out of it, and it replaced most of the sugar. She took most of the sugar out, and then she doubled the amount of sugar that she added to the recipe in persimmon sugar, and it was pleasant. The texture, the taste didn't really come through too much, but it was like a very pleasant, mild sweetness. But yeah, persimmon's just, at least the dehydrated product, somehow just like isn't that sweet. More experimentation will happen in the future, but in the meantime, the leathers and the raisins are are spectacular. Last thing, I realized I didn't add this already, sorry about that. Don't make the layers of leather thicker than I suggested. If you do, the texture turns out like bread and the flavor somehow changes. It's not pleasant. It really sucks. But when they're really thin, it's crystalline and beautifully flavored.